F124 Driver Career Mode Season 2, Round number 5, the Canadian Grand Prix. We start this race weekend with a secret meeting, another secret meeting. Of course, we had one, well, we very briefly had one with Aston Martin earlier in the season, but we ended up rejecting them because we didn't want to go back there again. Now we have a secret meeting with Ferrari, and well, currently Ferrari are at the top of the championship, the Constructors' Championship, or both championships actually. And we are going to kind of progress through with that. And thankfully, McLaren don't suspect us at all. I mean, we're happy with McLaren at the moment, but, you know, I like moving from team to team between seasons. So, you know, just keeping my options open. And we also had an upgrade that I put on the car to come through later. And our first upgrade of the season has actually come onto the car now. As you can see, we have jumped up back ahead of Red Bull again, and right there once again with Aston Martin. So once again, we are pretty much joint quickest. We pretty much have the joint quickest car once again. This time though here in Canada. Now last time in Canada, we, from what I remember, were doing okay in the race. I can't exactly remember how good we were doing. We were definitely doing all right from what I remember. But then we had an engine failure. It was our first, I believe, our first mechanical failure of the season last season. So you know, we had a failure last time out in Miami. That was the first of this season. So hopefully this time we can actually finish the Canadian Grand Prix, because it's a circuit that I really love. I just really like driving on this track, and yeah, hoping for good things. And Q1 starts off well, going P1 in Q1. So good pace in the car. I did have to do 2 runs. I mean, I probably didn't have to, but my first run wasn't amazing, so I went for a second run just in case, because I was sitting outside the top 10. Then we get into Q2, purple through sector 1, purple through sector 2 as well. So we're showing some pretty good speed in this car as we now head down the back straight. Yeah, car's feeling pretty good here in qualifying on the soft compound tyres, and sector 1 especially, I seemed very quick. My sector 1s were a couple of tenths at least quicker than everyone else. Sector 2, I was about where I needed to be. Sector 3, on the most part, I was actually a little bit slow, so maybe my car is a little bit draggy down the straights. We actually end up going P2 in Q2, just behind Charles Leclerc, who once again putting in a mega performance in that Ferrari. The big shock, I guess, out in Q2 is Lewis Hamilton. He's out in Q2 again. It's happened a few times this season. Alexander Albon, the one to take his place in Q3, which, you know, often when someone like Hamilton or one of those top 5 team drivers is out in Q1, it is usually Albon that ends up getting through in the Williams. And then we head to Q3. Now, a little bit of a squabbly start through there, but still a purple sector 1. I believe I am the last one to set a lap time here. I haven't done a lap yet. I only had this one brand new set to go, so I didn't do an initial run. I just did this one run on the soft tyres in Q3. Charles Leclerc goes quickest there with a 108.9, but there are still cars coming to cross the line. And yeah, so far decent, but not amazing. I think Sector 1 was purple, but for some reason it's showing as green up there. Sector 2 though was not purple, it's only green. So not as good through Sector 2. And then Sector 3, this is the sector where I seem to lose speed. I don't know if I just don't have the straight line speed or what it is. I mean, Sector 1 does have quite a lot of corners, so maybe it is that, you know, my car is more downforce heavy and it just doesn't like this big, long back straight. In the end, it's P2, 5 hundredths of a second, just almost 6 hundredths of a second behind Leclerc, who gets pole position, the only driver into the 108s. Charles Leclerc is doing such a stellar job in that Ferrari at the moment. It's not right there. I mean, it's close now, but it's not right there. It's still 4th quickest car on paper, I believe. And he's putting in some great performances. Perez, my teammate, all the way down in P7. Let's see what's in store.
We're back once again beside the St. Lawrence River here in Montreal for the Canadian Grand Prix. The event first moved to the variant of this track back in 1978, and it was won by none other than Gilles Villeneuve, the first Canadian to ever win his home race, and in whose honour the circuit would be renamed. With top speeds of around 210 miles per hour heading into the overtaking opportunity of turn 13, the 2.7 miles of the circuit Gilles Villeneuve are some of the quickest on the Formula One calendar. There are 14 corners in total, with 60% of the lap taken at full throttle. full, and average speeds clock in at about 130 miles per hour. Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. A fantastic effort from Charles Leclerc yesterday, and it's put him on pole, and Shaw completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have Oscar Piastri, Norris, Russell, Perez, Fernando Alonso, Verstappen, Sainz, Albon, Magnussen, Hamilton, Gasly, Bottas, Tsunoda, Sargent, Hulkenberg, Ocon, Joe, and Lance Stroll brings the grid to a close. And now it's time to head down to the track.
Here we go, it's Canadian Grand Prix time here in Season 2 of F1 Driver Career Mode. Lights out and away we go. It is a decent start for us, but Charles Leclerc comes across in front, cuts us off. Fair racing, but he does get ahead of us as we, though, stay in second place through the first couple of corners and already have a little bit of a gap to Piastri and Russell, the cars fighting behind. I think Verstappen was P3. No, sorry, I think Verstappen had a grid penalty, didn't he? So he's further back, but Piastri is now P3. I can't remember exactly where he started, but Russell P4, pretty good for him in the Mercedes. He's doing a good job in that Mercedes that Hamilton especially seems to be struggling with quite a lot, and yeah, it is a little bit off the pace of the other top teams. We continue the rest of this lap behind Charles Leclerc, who's had a great start here. He's almost broke out a second on me already, and gets good traction out of that corner onto the back straight. I think that's where I'm struggling quite a bit, to be honest, with the traction out of some of these corners. It's the thing with this game, the AI, especially on certain tracks especially, get really good traction out of corners, and you just can't really do anything to stop them. You do notice though that I do close in a little bit through the corner, so I think that is a big case here, that my setup is not as kind of, yeah, it's a much more downforce heavy setup. Fernando Alonso down in P6. He's been having a bit of an all over the place season so far. Is now trying to get past Lando Norris, who's also been having a bit of an all over the place season in that Red Bull. I'm sure he'd be wishing that he stayed with McLaren, because, well, McLaren's definitely doing a better job this season so far than Red Bull is. Alonso gets ahead of Norris though, and Norris is just falling down the order here, as now Sergio Perez in the McLaren is coming for him as well. These two drivers, basically the two drivers that swapped teams. You know, Perez was at Red Bull, Norris was at McLaren. They basically just swapped seats with each other, and although Norris stays ahead at this point in time, it's going to be difficult for him to stay ahead of Checo for a while. Now it's kind of a top four group here, down to Russell, who's still doing a really great job there in P4, but then quite a big gap then back to Alonso and the rest of the field. So it is a four-way battle for the lead, and we're going to go for a move on Charles Leclerc. He kind of just sticks his car on the inside there. I wasn't actually going for a move there, but Leclerc, he kind of slowed down into the corner. I was trying to get right up behind him, but not necessarily go for a move. He moved to the inside and then just completely slowed down, basically just let me past. That's let Piastri get past him, and now George Russell is also trying to get past Charles Leclerc, who's fallen from P1 now down to P4 in the space of not even half a lap, like a sector basically. So not good for Charles Leclerc there. He will not be happy about that, especially Russell, because that Mercedes is not as quick as these other cars. Now Piastri's coming for a move on us. That Aston Martin we know is quick, and he's gone to the move to the inside, and I think he's actually going to get the DRS down the back straight as well, which is going to make it difficult for us to do anything, considering we're not quite quick enough down the straight, and we don't really have the ERS to use either. We've just got to sit behind Piastri and stay within DRS so we can have a go later on. Yuki Tsunoda has been having a bit of a lonely race here in P14. And it's going to get worse for him because he now has a mechanical failure and will be out of the Canadian Grand Prix. Everybody goes flying past him. Zhou Guanyu, the driver currently in last place, going past there in the green Sauber. And Tsunoda is out of the Canadian Grand Prix, the first DNF of this race. We continue looking at the back of Oscar Piastri, lap number 11. Going on to lap 12, get a good run out of the chicane, the Wall of Champions chicane. And we're going to have a look down into turn 1 on the inside. He gives us room, but we can't quite make the move at that point in time. We're going to have to wait a little bit longer. Here we go, lap number 12. We are so close behind him. The closing speed into that corner is ridiculous, and we have the grip to stay right behind him through the chicane. This time we're going to dive to the inside. We're a lot closer. We go later on the brakes. We're still side by side with him through the first couple of corners. He's there on the inside. I try and get the power down as best as I can, and I think we're just about going to get ahead of him. So we're back up now into the lead of the Canadian Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton making slow work going up the field here. He's currently P11 now, trying to get past Alex Albon for P10, that last points position. This has not been the race for Hamilton so far, not really been the season for Hamilton so far, or Mercedes in general, but he is now up into the top 10. This group of 4 cars still going very strong here. Once again, I've got Piastri right behind me, and this time he's going to get me into turn 1. I can't really fight that one, so I've just got to let him go. But I'm really impressed with Russell sticking with us here, and Leclerc is probably pretty disappointed that he hasn't been able to get back past at least him to get into the top 3. All 4 of us here then come into the pits this lap. There goes Russell, there goes Piastri, there goes myself, changing onto a set of hard compound tyres. It's a good pit stop for the team, finally a good pit stop, and we jump Piastri. We have jumped Oscar Piastri in the pits, which means that we are now back into the effective race lead, because the 5 cars ahead of us, Alonso, Norris, Perez, Sainz and Verstappen, are yet to pit. So we are now the effective race leader once again, and we must continue on. But Piastri is very quick at warming up his tyres, and we go a bit too late on the brakes into the hairpin. That's going to let him up the inside. We very nearly tagged the wall on the outside. He's going to have the DRS here as well, so I don't think I can fight this too much. There's not really any point. We've just got to let him go, try and do what we did earlier and make a move on him later on, because he gets the DRS there. He then gets the DRS here, as well as we, I think, do slightly tag the Wall of Champions there. That could have been a disaster, but thankfully it's not. Lap number 20, we're still here right behind Piastri. We've been stuck behind him for a while now, and actually in that whole pit stop phase, George Russell has now fallen back, and he is no longer in this top 3 group of myself, Piastri and Leclerc. Norris is currently leading the race because he started on hard compound tyres, but he eventually comes into the pits, and it is now a 3-car fight for the win of this race. But it's really at the moment only been between myself and Piastri. Once again, lap 22, we're going to go for the move round the outside. This time it's a much nicer, cleaner move than it was with Leclerc at the start of the race, and we're now back up into the lead once again. Carlos Sainz in the other Ferrari is doing a few things at the moment, but not a lot, and it's going to get worse for him because his engine then goes up in smoke and he is out of this race. Carlos Sainz, he's had a bit of bad luck with reliability, and that happens once again here. The battle with Piastri continues once again. This time we are, of course, the car ahead, going down the back straight, I guess you want to call it, into the Wall of Champions, and sure enough, Piastri up alongside. Easy overtake, actually. We just did not have the ERS to defend at all there, so Piastri back past us once again, but next lap, or a few laps later, I think it's a few laps later, I didn't actually pay attention up the top there, we're coming back at him again, once again, you know, dragging Leclerc along with us. He goes defensive, but this time we want the inside line, brake later than him, and he backs out of it, and we get back up into the lead once again on lap 28. But this battle will continue on. Another battle that's going on is down, not even in the points, but it's Esteban Ocon, who is currently in 14th. He's now battling with Logan Sargent, though, in the Williams, who is now, well, he was fighting for that 14th position as they go into the hairpin. Sargent ahead on the left, but Ocon has got the inside line. Not sure who was ahead at the detection point. I think it might have been Sargent. We see as we go down the back straight here, yes, sure enough, Sargent gets the rear wing open. Ocon does not. Stroll has now come alongside him as well. So that might be Ocon losing another place. He's trying to hold his own though. No, he has to back out on that move back on Stroll. So he is now down, Ocon now down to P16. He also doesn't have DRS going down the next straight as well. Now Zhou Guan Yu in the Sauber is coming alongside and going for a move into turn 1. This has not been a very good lap for Ocon. He's still fighting with Zhou here though, but it looks like Zhou might have got a better run out of that corner, and he is ahead. So that's now Ocon down from 14th to 17th. What a disappointing lap for him there. End of the lap, start of the next lap. Lap 33 for us. 33 for us. We've managed to stay ahead of Ocon, of Piastri, not Ocon, at this time into the hairpin. Once again, just keeping it nice and tidy. You can see the gap on the minimap there back to Russell, and Alonso actually catching Russell as well. We still managed to keep these guys behind, and as we head on to, well, we're actually now on the final lap. We are in the position where we are leading this race on the final lap, and I've tried to save as much ERS as I can as we head down the back straight here, but you can see the light is flashing. We don't have a massive amount to deploy, and Piastri's going to go for the move down the outside into the Wall of Champions. Piastri's taken the lead right at the last second, but now he doesn't have the ERS. I have a little bit still left. We're going to go for a move up the inside across the line, but we don't quite manage to get back into the lead again. And after all that, it's P2 here in Canada. We almost snatched it back off Piastri again, but in the end, weren't quite able to get it done. Piastri wins his second race, and I think it's his second in a row. What a race for him.
Oscar Piastri, take a bow. What a performance. What a win.
Well, that's 2 race wins in a row for them. I think they'll be really happy with that. I mean, 1 race win is great, but to have 2, you know that you've got it. You're a little bit more comfortable in your skin. This is a great sign of maybe what's to come next.
Aston Martin's performance today has shown that they can be competitive with the biggest names in the sport. They're making their way out to the podium as we speak, and the reaction from the crowd must be incredibly uplifting for them.
It's another 3 different teams on the podium. Piastri wins again. Back-to-back wins for him. What a result that is. We come home in second this time around. Our first time on the podium, not on the top step so far this season. And Leclerc, the ever consistent, there in P3, doing a great job and sticking with me and Piastri. Was never really looking at making a move on either of us, but it was very much a battle between myself and Piastri for the win. But Leclerc was right there with us. I mean, look at the time, the finishing time, 400ths of a second is that? 400ths of a second between Piastri and myself. Slightly longer straight, slightly better run out of the Wall of Champions chicane, and we could have won that race, but unfortunately it's P2, but it was a great battle all the way through. Leclerc just outside a half a second, as well. In the championship, the Drivers' Championship though, Charles Leclerc is still leading the way with his consistency. He is now only 5 points ahead of Oscar Piastri. We are a further 20 points back. Well, we are 20 points back from Leclerc, a further 15 back, I guess you could say, from Piastri. Perez, my teammate, is in 5th. Alonso now up into 4th with a reasonable result, although I think he still finished behind Russell. And in the Constructors' Championship, it is Aston Martin ahead, 10 points ahead of Ferrari, and then McLaren in 3rd with a bit more of a gap back to Red Bull and Mercedes. So anyway, thank you guys very much for watching. If you enjoyed, please go ahead, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.